you've worked with a lot of different vocalists. Was there anything unique about how Layne approached recording vocals compared to some of the other artists you work with?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like typically most of the singers, I'll lump all the grunge singers that I'd worked with, it typically takes a lot of work. We'll come in and they'll sing it multiple times, and sometimes we'll have to go through and handpick between each takes. And where I felt like Layne, he was more so than the others a performer. Like and I feel like it's kind of proof is in the pudding is when you go see them live. To me, again, this is my own opinion, Layne almost sings better a lot. When you hear them live, he sings better. Like there's more detail than the recordings have. So I feel like he was a true performer. So in the studio, he was like 1 or 2 takes. He'd go in and sing it, and if he was asked to sing it again, he'd get kind of grumpy. But I just think he knew what he was doing. His voice was really trained, and he knew exactly what he was doing. Where I think some of the other singers that I've worked, well, in general, like singing is an art form, and it takes years and years to get to that level. And I'd say, I think it's fair to say Eddie, when I worked with him, he was still new. He was a new singer.
Eddie Vedder?
Yeah. And same with the Blind Melon's Shannon Hoon. He was a relatively, hadn't spent a ton of time in the studio, where I think by the time I worked with Alice, Layne had sung, for years and years in the studio. So his level of professionalism, was just really, really high at that point. I remember Layne coming in with his 4-track. What was the song about? Hey.
Oh, that's Stay Away. I Stay Away. Yeah.
I Stay Away. Yeah, I believe my memory was that Layne showed up with a cassette tape of those vocals demoed with the harmonies and everything that he did at home. That I think he probably just did at home like that day, and he showed up and played it for us. He's playing for Jerry probably. Yeah. So I assume that he had wrote those lyrics and wrote those harmonies. Oh, another quick memory was, we didn't talk about Layne, the way that they did harmonies. Because that's one of my favorite things about Alice is the way they did their harmonies. Yeah. And then I think they had gotten so good at it, and Toby, the producer of Jar of Flies, knew too. So Layne would lay down a vocal track, and Toby would say, "You got a harmony for that?" And Layne was like, "Yeah, hit record." And then Layne would add a harmony, and then Toby would say, "You got another one?" He'd say, "Yeah, hit record." He had another harmony, and I think, on that song, we had like a stack of maybe 4 harmonies that he just went after another. And then Toby's like, Layne was like, "Yeah, I think that's it." And Toby's like, "Let's try one more. You got one more?" He's like, "I don't know." Why don't you roll it? And it was that 5th one, he'd find that really twisted harmony that a lot of the Alice has. It has just like that kind of fucked up harmony. And that was Layne just finding it on the spot, It was sort of Toby pushing him, saying, let's just do one more.
That's so cool. So you said he recorded some stuff on a cassette at home. Did you guys ever use any of those home recordings?
No, I think those were just like examples. Yeah, we redid everything.
You worked with Alice in Chains on multiple records. Did Layne's approach to vocals ever change at all record to record, or was it always more or less the same type of approach?
I think it got more so, like I was talking about, I think as the years went on, I worked on Jar of Flies, I worked on Sap, and I worked in the beginning of, I guess, which is now the Dog record. And I guess what I saw was Layne just nailing it nearly instantly within one take. And if he was asked to do something again, he kind of got grumpy about it. So I would say he just got he just got better, as the years went on, I felt like.
Yeah. Some vocalists like to use specific mics and specific gear. Was there anything specific that Layne liked to use when he was recording his vocals?
I don't remember anything that he requested, but I do remember this was on the Jar of Flies album, which was produced by Toby Wright. I remember this is kind of a nerdy thing, I don't know if this is the...
Yeah, no worries, it's cool enough, yeah.
But he had rented, I think, 5 or 6 microphones from Los Angeles, like a high-end microphone rental company.
Toby rented these mics?
Yeah, for Layne. I think we set up about 5 different mics and had him sing a little bit on each mic, and we ended up with this vintage... It was probably a vintage Tube U67 that just sounded killer. And we had again, this is nerdy, but we had a LA2A tube compressor in the vocal booth, or in the control room that we were running his vocals through. And this is maybe a testament to how quick he worked, is we were just still getting a vocal sound set up. We had to get the dials just right to get the right level and all that stuff. And we hit record, and we were really just still testing everything. And he just got the take. It was like, and unfortunately, I don't remember which song it was. I'd have to go back and listen to it, but it was off Jar of Flies. And I remember the beginning of the song started soft, so we set our knobs to sort of the soft setting. And as the song throughout the song, he starts getting louder and starts screaming. And I remember the level was so hot, it was distorting the tube compressor and it was distorting the tape. And I remember sitting next to Toby, and Toby was the engineer, and he was really responsible for it. I was like, oh, shoot, Toby, that distorted. It's distorted. Can we use that? And Toby just looks at me. He's like, that was gold. Doesn't matter. And so I'll have to look up the song. I can't remember what song it was, but you can hear it distorting on the recording still. And that was the take. It was like we were still just getting a sound set up, and we got...
Damn.
Yeah. So that's a good story of like how he worked.
His voice was powerful enough that it distorted
yeah,
the machine.
and we just, that shows you how much we had to be on the ball around someone like Layne. And Jerry too. It's like they're so creative, and it's like you just have to hit record. Anytime they're playing music, you hit record.
Yeah, that's crazy. Did Layne ever blow out his voice when he was singing?
No, Layne, he really knew what he was doing with his voice. Yeah. I mean, I've heard stories from live that he really knew how to take care of his voice.
And so, you mentioned a little earlier that Jerry Cantrell, from your experience, was like the creative force in the band. Mm-hmm. So what was the relationship between Layne and Jerry in that band?
So again, this is just through my lens. And again, I was 19, 20, 21 at this point. I was just the house engineer here. So I really didn't know entirely how the music industry worked at that point. But my impression was Jerry was here 16 hours a day. He didn't leave the studio. He'd show up. It was coffee after coffee, and he was part of every single decision. Where I think Layne was spending a lot more time on the couch filling out breakfast cereal boxes, and was asked to come in to sing. But there was so much happening outside the studio. Like I remember, and I don't know. For the history books, I don't know where this fit in, but I remember Layne would show up. He had a cassette 4-track that he was home recording ideas for, and he would show up and play the ideas for the band, and mostly Jerry and Toby probably. And that was later. So I think, from what I understand about history, later Layne got more involved in the writing and the lyric process, and I think maybe that was what I was seeing was Layne doing writing at home and bringing ideas in to show Jerry. So I imagine there was a lot more tug of war happening that I just didn't see. I mean, from my perspective, everyone got along. It seemed really easy, but I would say Layne was kind of didn't have his head in the process the whole time. He would come in and sing, and then he would sort of disappear. Where Jerry was very much part of every moment that got recorded.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, that was my impression.
So when it comes to Layne's lyrics, a lot of some of the engineers, producers I've spoken to have said that sometimes vocalists they might just improv their lyrics on the spot. With Layne, would you happen to know if he was very particular with his lyrics, or did he ever improvise at all?
I don't know that he improvised at all, and I don't even know. From what I understood was that Jerry wrote most of the lyrics, and then later Layne started writing more. But I actually don't know. I mean, like I said, I think later during the Jar of Flies, I think Layne was writing more of his stuff because he was showing up with his cassette tape. I didn't sense anyone improvising any lyrics.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you see, make sure to subscribe for more. All the videos on this channel are original. I'm the one conducting all the interviews and editing all the videos together. So if you guys like what you see and you want to support, the best way to do so is honestly just to subscribe. Lots more to come.